Welcome to Reddit Stories, where OP's coworker demands she deletes her YouTube videos. Am I the jerk for not censoring my YouTube channel, even though it makes my coworker uncomfortable? I'm 20, female, and I work part-time as a barista at a small coffee shop. It's a chill place, and I've always gotten along with my coworkers. Most of us are in our 20s, and things usually feel pretty relaxed and casual. Outside of work, I have a small YouTube channel where I post vlogs about my life. It's not a big deal at all. I only have a few hundred subscribers, and most of them are people that I went to high school with. Sometimes I talk about random things I do in my week, and I've mentioned working at the coffee shop a few times. I don't say the full name, just something like "at the shop" or "work was rough today. This guy ordered 5 caramel lattes and changed his mind halfway through." That kind of thing. Anyway, a few days ago, someone I used to be friends with in high school came into the shop. He said he had seen one of my videos where I mentioned I worked there and wanted to stop by to say hi and grab some coffee. It was a totally normal interaction. We talked for a minute, he got his drink, and he left. Nothing weird happened. Later that night, my boss called me. She wasn't mad, just curious, and asked if I had ever mentioned our shop in my videos. I said yes, I have a few times, but I never gave the full name or anything specific. She told me that one of my coworkers, we'll call her Megan, felt really uncomfortable after the customer came in and said that he saw me online. Megan apparently thought it was a safety issue and told our boss that she felt weird knowing customers might show up because of my channel. My boss told me that she personally wasn't worried about it, but asked if I'd be willing to take down any videos where the shop is mentioned, just to help Megan feel safe. I told her that I understood, but it would honestly be a lot of work to go back and find every single video where I casually talked about work. I said I'd rather talk to Megan in person and try to explain that there's really nothing to worry about. So the next time we worked together, I tried to have that conversation. I told her I wasn't trying to make her uncomfortable and that I've never said anything bad about the shop or about my coworkers, and I've never shown the name or exact location. I said I was happy to find a compromise, maybe even leave future mentions of work out of my videos. But before I could finish, Megan snapped at me. She said I was being stupid and careless, and that this is exactly how people get stalked or hurt, because people like me post their whole lives online without thinking. I was really caught off guard and honestly kind of hurt. I told her I had been trying to be reasonable and I came up with a solution that worked for both of us. But if she was going to talk to me like that, then no, I wouldn't be removing anything. Later that day, my boss pulled me aside and said I hadn't done anything wrong. She told me Megan had no right to speak to me that way and she wasn't going to force me to delete my videos. She made it clear that she supports me and just wants everyone to get along. But now, a couple of my friends are saying that maybe I should have just taken the videos down. They said I have no idea what Megan might have gone through in the past, and that even if I didn't mean harm, I should have been more empathetic. They also said that Megan was right about how careless people can be online, and if anything ever did happen at the shop, I'd probably feel guilty. I'm torn now. I didn't mean to make anyone uncomfortable, and I genuinely didn't think it was a big deal. But now I'm second-guessing myself. So Reddit, am I the jerk for refusing to censor my YouTube channel, even though it made my coworker uncomfortable? Not the jerk. You didn't post anyone's personal info, and you're not out here doxing the shop or your coworkers. You mentioned work casually, like most people do online. Megan overreacted, and calling you stupid crossed the line. It's one thing to have concerns, it's another to lash out and demand you censor yourself. You tried to be reasonable, and she shut that down. That's on her, not you. No jerks here. I get why you feel defensive about your content, especially since you're not doing anything harmful. But I also get why your coworker might be on edge. Some people have had bad experiences, and they develop strong reactions to anything that feels like a potential risk, even if it's not logical. She didn't handle the conversation well, but that probably came from fear, not malice. You both had valid feelings, but the delivery got messy. Hopefully, some space and a calmer chat can clear things up. You're the jerk. You were asked to make a small change to help a coworker feel safe, and instead of being understanding, you doubled down and got defensive. Then you escalated things when she got upset, which could have been avoided if you took a minute to hear where she was actually coming from. Not everyone is comfortable being included in someone else's online content, especially at their workplace. Just because you think it's harmless doesn't mean everyone else has to agree. Update 1 week later. So things took a bit of a turn. After my last post, Megan ended up quitting. She didn't give much notice, just said she wasn't comfortable working here anymore. It wasn't a big blow-up or anything, but the vibe was tense until the day she left. After she was gone, my boss asked me if I knew anything about the customer who came in and mentioned my YouTube channel. She specifically asked if I thought he might have known Megan. I said no, I didn't think so. I genuinely didn't even consider the possibility at the time. Then she told me that Megan had claimed she had issues with him before, that he had sent her unwanted messages or something like that. I'll admit, I kind of brushed it off at first. I even laughed a little and told my boss that Megan was probably just saying that because she was mad at me. It seemed too weird to be true, and I figured it was just more drama. But later that night, something about it just kept bugging me, so I decided to check. I looked him up on Facebook and I sent him a message. I kept it simple, just asked if he knew Megan. He replied pretty quickly and said, yeah, they had dated briefly, but he ended things. That gave me pause. I didn't know what to think, so I messaged Megan too and asked her if it was true. I figured she deserved a chance to set the record straight. Her response? She told me she didn't owe me an explanation and to not message her again. That was it. Cold and to the point. So now I'm sitting with this awkward feeling like maybe I did dismiss her too quickly. Then, just to make things even weirder, Ryan, the guy from the shop, messages me again and asks if Megan said anything about him. He also asks if I know if she's single. At that point, red flags were popping up everywhere. I told him no, she definitely wants nothing to do with him, and asked directly if they actually dated or if he just said that to sound casual. That's when his tone changed completely. He got defensive fast, said Megan has issues and that I shouldn't believe anything she might have said about him. He said he was trying to be nice and give her another chance, but if she's still acting crazy, then I'm the one with the problem. The whole thing felt really off. Now I'm sitting here feeling like Megan may have been telling the truth the whole time. I don't know all the details, and I don't know why she didn't want to open up with me, but I'm starting to think I was way too quick to assume that she was overreacting. I still don't feel great about how things went down. There's definitely a lot more to this than I thought, and I'm starting to wish I had taken her concerns more seriously from the beginning. This is exactly why you should have actually listened to Megan instead of treating her concern like it was some kind of personal challenge. She wasn't making anything up, and it's painfully obvious now that she was trying to protect herself in a situation that clearly made her feel unsafe. Honestly, I'm more disappointed in your boss. Megan had a stalker walk into her workplace, and instead of stepping in, your boss let her walk out. That's not leadership, that's negligence. This whole thing could have been handled so much better if someone had just taken her seriously from the start. Final update. I wanted to post one last update because honestly, I've been sitting with a lot of regret. After everything that happened, I reached out to a couple of mutual friends who also knew Ryan from high school. And yeah, it turns out Megan was right. Apparently, Ryan had asked her out multiple times in the past, and she turned him down every time. Things escalated to the point where she had to block him on more than one platform. He kept messaging her from new accounts. Her friends even told me that it's kind of a running joke in their group that Ryan's the weirdo who doesn't take a hint. Hearing that made my stomach drop. I felt horrible. I had been so quick to assume that she was exaggerating or being dramatic, when in reality, she was just trying to protect herself. I sent her a message and I apologized. I told her I didn't know the full story and that I was sorry for not believing her. Then I asked her why she didn't just explain it to me in the first place. She replied with one sentence. "Would you have believed me?" I didn't write back. I just stared at the message for a long time, and then I cried. Because she was right. I didn't believe her. I brushed off her fear, laughed at the idea, and even defended the guy that she was scared of. It made me realize how easy it is to overlook someone else's pain when it doesn't make sense from your perspective. And sometimes, by the time you understand, the damage is already done. I can't take any of it back. I just hope I remember this, really remember it. Because the next time someone tells me they're uncomfortable or scared, I want to be the kind of person who listens first, who makes them feel safe and understood. You know, Karen, sometimes by the time we figure out the truth, it really is too late. Would you have believed me? That really hit hard. And if you shut someone down before hearing them out, Don't be surprised when they eventually stop trying and cut you off. Just hear people out the first time. It's not just kindness, it's respect. HOA said every violation gets reported. Okay, every violation gets reported. I live in a small townhouse development just outside Boise. It's the kind of place where everyone mostly minds their own business. Kids ride bikes, and someone's always grilling something on weekends. If a neighbor waves, you wave back. That's the extent of it. We have an HOA, but it never felt like a real one. They handled landscaping for the shared green areas, dealt with snow removal in the winter, and sent out a yearly newsletter that reminded us to pay dues on time. That was it. No one was checking paint shades or measuring mailbox height. Most of us didn't even know who was on the board unless you happened to attend the annual meeting, which maybe 10 people total ever did. Then Marcus moved in. He bought the place 2 doors down. I remember seeing him unload his moving truck with a level of intensity that made me think he planned to alphabetize his canned food. Wired, neat, crisp polo shirt tucked in like he had somewhere formal to be. He was friendly enough at first and gave a small smile. He introduced himself to a few neighbors, and before anyone even had time to learn his last name, he joined the HOA board. No waiting to get to know how things worked. He sat in his house for exactly 1 week and then slid into that HOA meeting like he had been waiting for the position his whole life. And it seems he came with a mission, because suddenly, violation notices appeared like unwanted holiday catalogs. At first, we thought there must have been mistakes. A neighbor got one because her welcome mat was burgundy. Apparently, mats could only be brown or black. Another neighbor got cited because his car tire sat about 3 inches into the guest parking spot. We were stunned. I wasn't even sure that these rules existed. Most of us had lived here years without hearing about any of them. Then, 2 weeks later, I got one myself. My son had just left his skateboard leaning against the porch for a few hours after school. Just a kid dropping his stuff off to grab a snack. The notice read, "Recreational equipment must be stored out of sight." The wording felt like it had been copied from a prison yard manual. So I walked over and asked Marcus if he could maybe knock on doors before sending official notices. Not confrontational, just a neighbor asking another neighbor to dial things down. He didn't smile, didn't apologize. He said plainly, "Rules are rules. If I start making exceptions, where does it end?" That was the moment something clicked. Not anger, not even pettiness at first, just a realization. If he was going to treat the covenant like scripture, then scripture was about to be read. I pulled out the HOA covenant binder. It was old and faded. And I sat at my kitchen table and read all 47 pages that nobody looked at since 2008. And there it was. A goldmine of forgotten regulations that no one had followed in at least a decade. No visible security cameras from the street. Marcus had a Ring doorbell, bright and proud on his doorframe. No seasonal decorative flags except on certain recognized holidays. I counted 8 houses on one stroll that had sunflower flags, welcome flags, or ones with inspirational sayings. Garbage bins must be stored fully inside garages, not visible from the curb. Literally everyone kept theirs along the side of their house. No vehicles with commercial signage could be parked overnight. The plumber 3 houses down had his company van parked there every single night since I moved in. The covenant didn't just contain rules, it contained ammunition. So one evening I took a walk. No hurrying or sneaking, I was simply taking in the neighborhood with new eyes. I took photos, then submitted them using the same online violation form Marcus used to report all of us. I filled out every field, attached images, and noted dates and times. About 30 reports in total that week. I didn't hide, didn't make speeches. I didn't announce anything. I just followed the rules. A few days later, the HOA president, Joan, called. She had lived here 15 years and carried herself like the neighborhood's keeper. Her voice always had a soft simmer of patience and authority, the kind older teachers have when talking to stubborn children. This time, though, she sounded tired. More tired than I think I've ever heard anyone sound over a phone line. She asked what I was doing. I told her I was making sure the rules were applied equally. I reminded her of what Marcus told me. Rules are rules. She didn't argue. She paused like someone who wanted to say something but didn't have the energy to dress it up. She ended the call by saying, "Well, I suppose we have some work to do then." Word traveled because mailboxes started filling. Violations everywhere. People were confused and frustrated, and dozens of calls were coming to Joan every day. Then Marcus came to my door. He didn't shout, didn't threaten. He just looked exhausted. Said maybe there was a better middle ground moving forward. Maybe we could all calm down. I nodded and told him that sounded fine. But Joan, she began giving me this look whenever paths crossed, like I made her life harder. The look of someone who didn't want conflict, but also didn't want to admit whose choices escalated it. And maybe I did. And honestly, I feel kind of bad about that part. But she didn't stop Marcus when he turned neighborly living into a rulebook competition. She let him make our homes into hallways of posted notices. I didn't start the game, I just played it the way he did. Joan was okay with Marcus harassing the community until it affected her. She wasn't on your side. Now she has to deal with the same inconveniences she let everyone else suffer. Sometimes the lesson is just living on the receiving end of your own rules. Looks like everyone involved learned something here. I mean, Joan is the HOA president. This is literally the job. If someone takes a role where the main task is enforcing neighborhood policies, then yes, the workload goes up when the rules start actually being enforced. Complaining about that makes no sense. Imagine a police chief saying the officers caught too many criminals and now there's paperwork. That's the position. The role comes with responsibility. It's a volunteer role, sure, but that doesn't mean the volunteer gets to be upset when someone follows the rules they're responsible for. If you volunteer to pick up trash in the park and I throw a bag on the ground, you don't get frustrated at me for pointing out trash. You get frustrated at the fact that trash exists. Here, Marcus created the problem. OP simply reflected it back. Joan just didn't like seeing how many rules were quietly being ignored. So Marcus wanted to be the HOA sheriff, huh? He sure did, until the badge came with the paperwork. Turns out, enforcing every rule means they apply to you too. Play petty games, win administrative consequences. My roommate kept snoring and refused to address it, so I recorded her and played it whenever she tried to rest. I work and live on a cruise ship. Depending on the route, we dock every 2 to 4 days. It's not glamorous in the way movies make it look. The rooms are small, schedules are tight, and everyone is always either working, eating, or trying to sleep. I'm part of the entertainment staff, so I perform in shows, theme nights, and events. Because of that, we get to choose our roommates. I chose a girl I already knew casually from rehearsals. She seemed relaxed, friendly, and overall easy to be around. What she did not mention was that she snores like a chainsaw being dragged across metal. We have bunk beds. I sleep on the top bunk, and the first night I almost fell off the ladder trying to get down because I thought she was choking. The sound wasn't just snoring. It was snoring plus a wet gurgle plus something that sounded like she was trying to inhale the mattress. I actually leaned over and shook her once because I thought she couldn't breathe. And then she rolled over, sighed, and kept sleeping peacefully like it was nothing. Meanwhile, I was wide awake at 3 a.m, staring at the ceiling in confusion. I tried earplugs, then noise-canceling headphones. I tried white noise apps, then I tried music. I even tried putting a pillow over my head. Nothing worked. The sound cut through everything. And because we're right near the anchor room, I can say with full honesty that her snoring was louder than the ship docking. I brought it up gently. I figured we could talk like adults. I told her I was having trouble sleeping and asked if she had ever been checked for sleep issues. She shrugged and said she sleeps fine. So to her, it wasn't a problem. That's when I learned something important about life on ships. Changing roommates is extremely difficult. Unless someone is stealing, fighting, or setting things on fire, you're basically stuck with who you have. So I tried. I really did. But a human body can only handle so many nights of broken sleep. The breaking point came after a long day. I was up at 9, rehearsed, worked events, performed in a show, stayed late to reset props, and finally got to bed around midnight. I needed to be up at 6. She fell asleep before me, and the snoring kicked in almost instantly. I got maybe 2 hours of sleep total. By morning, I felt like my bones were vibrating, so I came up with a plan. Not out of rage, but of pure, exhausted survival. I recorded her. The next afternoon, I walked into the room for a break and she was there, about to nap. She said she was tired. I said okay, and she got in bed. The moment her eyes closed, I took out my speaker and played a loop of her own snoring. She shot upright like I had dumped water on her. She asked me what I was doing. I kept my voice totally calm and said, "If it's not a problem when you do it, it shouldn't be a problem now." She got angry and said I was being dramatic and petty, then stormed out. I didn't chase her. I stayed in the room and rested in silence. The next time she tried to nap, I did it again. And again. For 3 days, if she tried to rest, I played her snoring. Finally, management called us both in. She reported me, of course. She left out every detail about my sleeplessness and made it sound like I had randomly decided to torment her for no reason. I explained my side calmly. I didn't attack and I didn't get emotional. I simply explained the timeline, the conversations, the exhaustion, and the fact that I had tried every non-petty option first. Management listened. The manager looked at her and said that sharing your living space means acknowledging when your habits affect someone else, and refusing to address it was not respectful. So yes, they understood why I did what I did. We both got reassigned new roommates. We're not friends now, but I get to sleep again, and that's all I really wanted. This is definitely sleep apnea. I had the same thing before I finally got tested and started treatment. It's not always about weight or health in the obvious sense. People assume only certain body types snore, but anyone can have airway issues at night. When I started treatment, the snoring stopped and I got normal sleep again. My girlfriend said it changed her life too. I once dated someone who snored like this. It didn't matter what position she slept in or whether she was exhausted or well rested. It was like a creature noise, not regular snoring. I tried recording it too, but she would always wake up slightly and the sound would stop. The moment she fell back into sleep, it would start again. It was impossible to explain how intense it was unless someone heard it for themselves. OP was like, "Oh, you don't hear yourself? Don't worry, I made a playlist." Imagine trying to nap and hearing your own sleep demon remixing in 4K surround sound. And roommate ran to management like she was being hunted. "Ma'am, that was just your own snoring chasing you." Me, "You need glasses." Manager, "You need counseling." I had gone out of town for the holidays to stay with relatives I didn't know very well. They lived in one of those quiet places in the Midwest where there is one main street, one diner, and one hardware store that sells everything from paint to postcards. The kind of town where everyone waves to you even if they don't know you. The relative I stayed with had been putting off repainting a piece of wooden furniture. His wife had asked him to take care of it months ago, and he kept avoiding it because the color needed to be matched exactly. He said the paint mixing kid at the hardware store always messed it up. That kid was apparently a legend in the town for being consistently wrong. I didn't mind helping. It gave me an excuse to leave the house for a bit and stretch my legs. I didn't bother changing out of the clothes I slept in, so there I was, walking into a small-town hardware store wearing Thomas the Tank Engine pajama pants, a hoodie with a ramen packet design, and a baseball cap I had put on backwards while half asleep. The store was small and quiet, with old wooden floors that creaked under every step. There were shelves stacked high with items so old they probably came from someone's garage 20 years ago. You could tell this place had history. The kind of store that didn't have a corporate office breathing down anyone's neck. Just locals doing what locals do. I headed to the paint counter with a small wood chip from the furniture so they could match the color. Before I could say anything, a woman stepped directly in front of me and pushed a paint swatch into my hand. She said she needed 2 cups of the color on the card. She said it quickly and sharply, like she was placing an order at a fast food window and expected it in 30 seconds. I let out a short laugh and told her I didn't work there. Well, she didn't like that. She looked me up and down and said I absolutely did work there and that I needed to stop fooling around and get on with it. I pointed toward the actual employee who was standing behind the counter and told her that was the person she needed. She narrowed her eyes at me, and then I told her she needed glasses. Then she said something about my clothes being unprofessional and that she was going to get the manager. I just stood there. I didn't have enough energy to care. A moment later, she returned with the manager. He looked like he had been awake since 4 a.m. every day for the past 30 years. Overalls, boots, a pencil behind his ear. and the kind of expression only seen on a man who has dealt with every kind of nonsense a human being can create. He looked at her, I'll call her Karen now, then at me. Karen pointed at me and said I was rude, unhelpful, and refusing to do my job. The manager blinked slowly, looked at my pajama pants, hoodie, and backwards hat. Then he looked at her and spoke with a flat voice. Not angry, just done. He said the employee was the person behind the counter and that I was a customer. Then he said she didn't need paint, she needed counseling. That was a moment where everything just stopped, like the whole store was processing. She jabbed a finger at his chest and started talking about calling corporate. She said he was going to lose his job. She listed reasons, raising her voice a little each time. He interrupted her. He said there was no corporate. He said the store's cash register was older than most of the street, and the bell above the door had been ringing since before she was born. He told her she could either leave quietly or continue making a scene and meet the sheriff outside. She must have realized very suddenly that she wasn't in the kind of place where people backed down when someone threatened to complain on a Google review. She walked out loudly, pushing products off a shelf as she went. The bell above the door rang behind her. When I stepped outside, she was there in the parking lot and the sheriff was at her car. He had a ticket pad in hand. She looked like she had been arguing for a while. The sheriff had the expression of a man who could argue forever. He didn't look tired, he looked patient. I left with the correct paint color in hand and a story I didn't expect to collect that day. Sometimes you don't need to say anything clever. The world handles it for you. I miss old school hardware stores like this. The kind where the same person has been working there for 30 years and knows exactly where everything is without checking a computer. There's something comforting about places like that. A different pace, a different attitude. They feel real in a way that big stores don't. We had a hardware store like that when I was growing up. The owner was grumpy in the kind of way that hides a good heart. You'd ask for something, and he'd know exactly what shelf it was on and how much it cost 10 years ago. As he got older, he got even more direct. I think that's just part of the job. The world needs people like that. Firm, but fair.
So she marched up to OP insisting that he worked there?
Meanwhile, OP's dressed like Saturday morning cartoons.
My girlfriend gave me an ultimatum regarding a group trip.
I, 26 male, really need an outside perspective on the situation with my girlfriend, 26 female. For starters, my girlfriend and I have been together for 3 years. Throughout our relationship, things have been mostly good. Our schedules conflict a bit, but we've had our issues and we make it work. A big issue between us right now involves a good friend of mine who's 28 female. For clarity, I'll refer to her as Violet. To add some context, Violet and I are part of a small friend group which includes 2 other people. We met while attending a film festival around 2 years ago. We were all waiting in line to enter the theater and the line was long, so we naturally struck up a conversation and hit it off. We kept in contact afterward. Everyone in the group is mostly long distance, so we don't get to hang out in person too much. However, we talk daily and have weekly group gaming sessions and anime and movie watch-alongs. Violet lives the closest to me in the next town over, so we see each other in person the most outside of the group's virtual meetups. I do want to mention that I invited my girlfriend to each virtual and in-person meetup, but she turned me down every time. I try to include her, but she doesn't want anything to do with it. This is mostly because she doesn't particularly care for our interests. Things like anime, manga, or gaming seem childish to her. The movies we watch are mostly older era films and restored films, but she's not into those either. This disconnect between us was an issue before I even made this group of friends. It's not like she'll engage in these things to spend time together. I grew up with game nights, not just video games, but board games, card games, etc., but she doesn't care for that either. She either shuts it down or goes off and does her own thing. Or if she does watch something with me or play a game, she makes it clear that it's a chore for her. She belittles whatever it is more and more as time goes on. She calls it joking, but I feel more like it's belittling. It gets to the point where I don't even enjoy whatever we're watching or playing. I'm not particularly a huge fan of reality TV, but I still watch it with her and try genuinely to engage because, for me, it's not about the show so much as it's about spending quality time together. So, my friendship with the group has been a nice change of pace and has brought some balance, but it's become an ongoing issue in my relationship. Recently, the group has been putting together a trip to an upcoming anime convention. The event lasts for the weekend, so my plan was to stay together at an Airbnb and split the cost. My girlfriend is outright against the trip because of Violet. She doesn't like my friendship with Violet and doesn't seem to like Violet at all. She becomes generally annoyed whenever Violet is involved and gets upset whenever I talk or hang out with her. We could be having a disagreement about something entirely unrelated, and somehow it circles back to Violet. She also calls Violet a pick-me girl. When the trip was first being planned, I invited my girlfriend. She had no interest in going, and later she expressed an issue with me going. She didn't like that I'd be staying in the same house as Violet during the trip. I offered a compromise of booking a hotel and meeting up with everyone, but that wasn't acceptable for her either. Nothing I propose is heard. It's all on deaf ears because she knows Violet is going. The trip has become a major point of contention between us. She now says that it's proof I have feelings for Violet because I keep defending her during arguments and because I won't let the trip go. I haven't let the trip go because I'd really like to attend the convention, and it's rare that everyone in the group schedules align like this. My girlfriend views it as me taking a getaway with Violet. She's firm on her position regarding the trip and has given me an ultimatum. She said I could do whatever I wanted, but if I go on the trip, I'd be choosing Violet over her and she would act accordingly. I honestly don't know what to do anymore. I'm not saying her feelings are invalid, her feelings are her feelings, but I feel that she's being unreasonable and that her insecurity about my friendship with Violet is baseless. I feel pulled in two different directions now, and I'm faced with this ultimatum. All I do is compromise in our relationship, and it just feels one-sided. I don't understand why this would be a deal breaker. How do I address this with her now? So your girlfriend dislikes your friend group, your friend Violet, and thinks your interests are childish. My advice would be to date someone who actually seems to like you. Honestly, the fact that she belittled your interests and makes it known that engaging in any of them is a chore is enough of a reason to really consider if you want to stay with her. It's totally okay for people to have different interests in a relationship, but it's not okay to make your partner feel bad about theirs. As far as the Airbnb goes, you have a right to stay with your friends, and she has a right to end the relationship over it. I certainly would not miss out on a good time with my friends because of a relationship that has these kinds of issues. I'm tired of my ex-husband's wife wanting to be my friend just because he cheated on both of us. More than 17 years ago, my ex-husband cheated on me with a woman I didn't know. She, however, knew who I was. He left me for her when our only daughter was still a baby. I moved on with my life, determined never to fight for a man who makes immature decisions without considering the consequences. He eventually married that woman, and I focused on healthy co-parenting for our daughter. He never showed any remorse, even going so far as to tell me that our relationship was always a mistake and that this woman was the true love of his life. That hurt at the time, but it also helped me realize he was not the kind of person I needed in my life. Recently, he cheated on his wife, and for reasons I don't understand. She suddenly started trying to reach out to me daily. Her attitude had always been cold and distant towards me, so I was surprised by this sudden change. I only found out about the infidelity through my daughter, who wasn't particularly affected by it, so I didn't dwell on it. The only thing that really concerned me was whether he'd still be able to have her over on weekends as usual. But then his wife began sending me long messages explaining everything that had happened, even though I never asked her to. In the past, I only spoke to her if I couldn't reach my ex and had a question about our daughter. Now she sends long audio messages talking about their issues, no matter how disinterested I sound in response. I can see that she needs someone to talk to, but I have to wonder, why me? She even said, "You know how I feel now," as though we're in the same boat. I guess I do know how she feels, but that was 17 years ago, and the situations aren't the same. To be completely honest, she can't compare her situation to mine at all. I was a woman who had just given birth when my husband confessed he had been unfaithful with another woman who, as he put it, wasn't boring to hook up with and knew how to appreciate him. But she chose to marry a man she already knew was unfaithful, so why should it be my responsibility to support her now? When I talked to my family and friends about this, almost all of them responded with things like, "Oh, but she must feel lonely," or "She wasn't to blame for being the other woman." Some even said, "You should be more empathetic. We all need someone to talk to." My personal favorite was, "She's not to blame for him being a cheater. You should understand because she needs help." I do understand that she's not solely to blame. He's the cheater. But this woman, who was fully grown at the time, made the decision to get involved with a married man who was cheating on his pregnant wife. Why should I carry the burden of helping her now, years later, when she never helped me? She could have warned me at the time. If I were in her place and a married man flirted with me, I'd feel obligated to tell his wife out of respect. Yet, she made no such effort. If she didn't do that then, why is it suddenly my duty to befriend her and listen to her pain? It doesn't make any sense. And the worst part is that nearly everyone around me says I should help her. They say I should be her shoulder to cry on even though I don't want to, and don't feel any empathy for either of them. In my view, both she and he knew exactly what they were getting into. I don't see why I should be her free therapist now. I'm not defined by being cheated on, and I certainly don't need to talk about it with her 24/7. I've chosen to ignore her messages, and that's what I'll keep doing. To clarify, I can't block her because she still lives with him, and I need to have her contact info in case there's ever an emergency with my daughter. And honestly, it's strange to receive so many comments and even private messages from people suggesting what I should say to her or writing out hypothetical responses for me. I'm not going to use some stranger's words to address someone in my life. No one else knows how I feel about this or fully understands the situation. It feels like people are reflecting their own issues onto me. Update 13 days later. First, background. My mother was involved with a married man for a long time, starting when I was a teenager. Their affair lasted many years until he passed away. I don't think his wife ever discovered it. My mom has always manipulated me into not judging my ex's wife, insisting that no one chooses who they fall in love with. She's always projected her own past onto that woman, saying things like my ex-husband and his lover are soulmates, and that I should stay out of their way. I was very young and had no one else to lean on, and narcissists have a way of trapping people. Recently, after another stressful day, I reached my breaking point when I saw yet another message from her in my WhatsApp. I had planned to continue ignoring her, but I couldn't hold back anymore. I recorded an audio message letting her know that I'm not interested in her life or her suffering. I told her we're not friends, nor am I interested in becoming one, and pointed out that she never asked for forgiveness back then. She has no right to expect me to join her support group for women cheated on by my ex. I told her in no uncertain terms that she knew exactly what she was getting into. She knew my ex was capable of cheating on his pregnant wife, yet she went ahead and married him, thinking she was now somehow different from all the other women he had been with. I hate long audios, but I spent a full 5 minutes unloading all of this on her. It was probably my biggest moment of catharsis. She didn't take it well, and we ended up arguing. It was exhausting, and the last thing I want is conflict after 17 years of a peaceful co-parenting arrangement. I realized that they're unlikely to divorce, which means she'll probably be in my life indefinitely. So I sent her message to my ex, attaching one of her audio messages for reference. I listened through all of them, and not once did she apologize. She just complained and tried to get me to speak poorly about him with her, or expected me to act as her unpaid therapist. I told my ex that he needed to tell his wife to stop messaging me and seek professional help instead. He actually apologized and explained that they were both working on their marriage and that she was still feeling hurt and insecure. He said that since I went through the same thing, she hoped we could share our pain. I told him flat out that her situation and mine are completely different, and her intrusion is affecting our co-parenting. Reluctantly, he agreed to talk to her, and I've now gone 3 days without hearing from her, except for a message today letting me know my daughter was sleeping over. Honestly, I don't care if they have a happy marriage or a miserable one. I don't care if she's happy knowing he cheated on her, but chose to stay with him anyway. All I want is to live in peace and not get dragged into the drama of two people who, even in their 40s, still seem stuck in a high school mindset. She wants to have a pity club with the cheated on ex-wife while working on the relationship? That's rich. Am I the jerk for planning a Disney trip without my stepdaughter and leaving her with her father? I, 41 female, and my husband, 41 male, have 4 kids. 1 from a previous relationship, 2 from his previous relationship, and 1 that we have together. We've always tried to treat the kids as equally as possible. However, with extended family, they don't always go on the same trips unless we all go together. For example, his parents take his kids on vacations, and my kid doesn't want to go without me. This has never been an issue, but when we plan trips as a family, we always make sure to take everyone. The problem is that my stepdaughter, who's 16, doesn't really enjoy anything that anyone else likes. Or she'll like something until someone else starts enjoying it too. For example, she really wanted to go on a winter trip to Colorado for skiing. None of the other kids were that excited, but since it's hard to find things she enjoys, we went anyway. She was excited until the other kids started having fun, and then she wanted to leave. This is basically what happens on every trip, whether it's the zoo, museums, or anything else. If others are excited about it, she immediately loses interest and hates the idea. Sounds kind of like Angelica Pickles. We thought maybe she just wanted one-on-one time with each parent, So we did that with both her mom and dad. She still complained the whole time. Her counselor suggested that maybe she wants to see both parents getting along and enjoying the activities together. They tried that, but if either parent shows any enjoyment, she immediately hates whatever they're doing. We've done girl days with her mom and me, but she hates those too. We found that the less enthusiastic we are, the more she seems to want to do it. This applies to meals too. If someone else likes something, she'll find ways to criticize it. It's like she can't let anyone enjoy anything. She also seems to like things more if no one else wants to do them. This happens even when she's with her aunt and her cousins. Her sister is not like this at all. We've asked her if she has any insight. Her mother has too, but all she says is, she's just a jerk, and shrugs. We've let her choose day trips and told her she could bring a friend, but it's the same. If she sees anyone enjoying something she chose, she complains and says it was her idea and that no one else should enjoy it. This year, we had been talking about going to Disney for a while. My nephew, who has cancer and doesn't have many friends or siblings due to missing a lot of school, has always wanted to go with us. Stepdaughter immediately said it was stupid as soon as she found out everyone else wanted to go. Her father said he would have a lot of work to catch up on when he returned. He does seasonal work and has to take work when it's available. The kids all agreed they wanted to go, and he wanted us to go too, so I made the plans for the trip and decided to take everyone but stepdaughter. I made reservations for myself, my sister, my nephew, and 3 of our kids. Since stepdaughter didn't want to go, I figured she could stay home with her dad. Now my husband is saying I'm in the wrong for not planning for her to come too, but I didn't want her to ruin the trip with her complaints, especially with my nephew there. Am I the jerk? Edit. To clarify, I asked stepdaughter multiple times if she wanted to go, so I could be sure at each stage whether she had changed her mind. Each time she was adamant that she didn't want to go. Her dad says she always claims she doesn't want to go, but regrets missing out. This is based on last summer's vacation when she said she didn't want to go but ended up enjoying it. We were at a campground and it rained the whole time. It was pretty miserable, but she thought it was funny. Not the jerk. I'd only advise you, your partner, and his ex to focus more on her mental health treatment because this sounds very pathological to say the least. Info. Have any of the grown-ups ever sat her down and asked her why she does this? She's 16. She's old enough to have a calm conversation about why she complains as soon as someone else likes something she enjoys. Maybe someone should just try talking to her about it. Not the jerk. But don't get bogged down in her behavioral problem. Just say, stepdaughter said she didn't want to go. Staying home with you is what she wanted. The plans are made. Honestly, your husband is mostly ticked off that he's in charge of his daughter while you're gone. He was hoping to have that time for himself. Well, tough. Am I the jerk for telling my mom to stop playing the victim and ruining Thanksgiving? My mom and I have always had a strained relationship. Growing up, I learned early that everything had to revolve around her needs, her feelings. I was expected to manage my emotions around her, carefully navigating every interaction to keep the peace. If something didn't go her way, she'd somehow twist the situation until she was the one hurt, the one who had done everything right, yet was never appreciated. I hated how that made me feel, but I told myself that one day I'd be able to set boundaries, to live my life without constantly walking on eggshells. As an adult, though, nothing has really changed. I still find myself anxiously checking my tone, weighing every word before I speak, just to keep her from making herself the victim. This year, I decided to host Thanksgiving for the family, and I promised myself it would be a peaceful day. My mom would come, but I'd focused on keeping things calm and drama-free. Things were fine at first. My dad was cracking jokes, everyone was catching up, and I started to think maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. Then as we sat down to eat, my mom started in. It began with small jabs and comments about how I never call and how I'm always too busy for her. I tried to brush them off, but then she escalated, talking about how family means so much to her and how she feels like she's the only one who cares. That's when she launched into her usual spiel about how much she's sacrificed, how no one appreciates her, and how she's such a good mother who's never shown gratitude. I could feel my blood start to boil. I tried to hold my tongue, but I couldn't do it. I finally snapped and said, "Mom, you really need to stop playing the victim. It's exhausting, and it's why we don't get along." The room went dead silent. She sat there, shocked, before her face crumpled and she started crying. She called me cruel, heartless, and accused me of ruining Thanksgiving. She said she had only ever tried to love me, but I was too selfish to see it. She stormed out, and my dad followed her, giving me a sad look, like he knew this was coming but couldn't do anything about it. Now the family's completely divided. Some relatives have called to say they understand, that she needed to hear it, but others think I was heartless, but I could have been kinder or more tactful. They keep saying she's my mother and that one day I'll regret speaking to her this way. But a part of me feels like I had to say it. If I didn't draw a line now, I'd be stuck in this cycle forever. I'm conflicted because I never wanted to hurt her, especially not on Thanksgiving. I just couldn't keep pretending her behavior was okay. She refuses to see her role in our issues, and I'm tired of always being the one who has to accommodate her feelings. So, am I the jerk for finally telling her the truth, even if it hurt her feelings? Not the jerk. So you hosting Thanksgiving wasn't enough for her? Nah, she needed to hear it, and as a guest in your home, she was incredibly rude and bad-mannered. Tell people that you were hosting her and she couldn't even be a gracious guest. Was it harsh? I mean, not as harsh as you could have been, but it's equally harsh for her to make your dinner party about her. How dare you make my daughter do chores? This feels so dumb to me, but considering that her mother called and told me I was not being a good host, I'm questioning myself. Yesterday, I'm 42 female, my daughter, who's 16 female, had a close friend over for a sleepover. I ordered them pizza and brought it in and said they could eat whenever they wanted. They weren't hungry at the time and I already finished dinner, so I said I would be upstairs doing some laundry and they could eat whenever they wanted. I also bought them snacks and stuff and everything was kept out on the countertop so they could take whatever. I had a couple of conditions though, and it was just mainly close the snacks whenever you're gonna go to bed and leave the plates in the sink. I let them know that I would come down to load the dishwasher and clean up. However, my daughter ended up putting her plate in the dishwasher and her friend did the same. They also just put the snacks bag in the pantry later on, so I didn't end up cleaning up after them very much. Her friend left this morning, and a couple of hours later, I got a call from her mother telling me that her daughter shouldn't be doing chores at my house. I explained they just put their own snacks and plates away, and her mother said if she were hosting, she would take care of these things, and by making her daughter clean up and wasting her time, I was being a bad host. This feels so surreal to me because these things seem like such basic things to do, but maybe these are considered chores. So, am I the jerk? Edit. I didn't process this earlier, but we have some randomly kind of fun kitchen tools, like this little box you pull to spin blades and cut vegetables, which the friend thought was cool and tried on a carrot in the morning, and I used it in their breakfast, so maybe that also threw her off. Edit 2. Thank you so much for all the support. I'm honestly not sure what I can say to the mom, but the friend actually apologized to me, and I've let her know that she's still welcome anytime. Also, I would appreciate if my daughter's friend is not bashed or insulted. I'm not sure if she said anything, but she seems sweet, and I would rather not blame her for anything. Not the jerk. I specifically remember my friend's dad saying to us at a sleepover, "If you guys don't clean this crap up by the time I get back, you're not sleeping in the house. Want to live like animals? You can do it outside." Ah, the 90s, a simpler time. Not the jerk. That's not chores. That's cleaning up after yourself, which you should do wherever you're at. Well, what do you think? Did OP do anything wrong or not? Please let us know.
Depends on where that pizza was from. Pizza Hut for the win. Don't at me.
Want me to unload my own trailer? Okay, I needed a vacation anyway. So I was a trucker for a while, and that comes with plenty of stories of crazy things in so many places. One of my favorite stories, however, comes from a piece of malicious compliance that came together just perfectly. The setup. I tend to be a bit on the lazy side when I can get away with it, and I searched for quite some time to find a company that would keep me far away from unloading the trailers myself. I found a good one that had a 95% drop and hook rate. Drop off a trailer full of goods, then grab a new one that's either loaded or to take to the next pickup. 4.9% of them are either handled by the receiving dock or by lumpers, dock workers hired by warehouse companies specifically to unload trucks. That 0.1% is a list of places that just want to watch you work or be convinced that you really shouldn't operate their lifts. In my contract, I saw that there was a place where your hourly rate for unloading was stated. Not for the hours that you were sitting and waiting to be unloaded, but for when you were the one unloading your own trailer. I also saw that the contract allowed for alterations to be made to the price of this service to be charged to the customer. As a joke, I put in not one, but 2 extra zeros. $1,500 an hour for unloading a trailer. Should deter most people. Most people saw that, got a good laugh, then pulled in someone to unload for me. The event. Most people, like I said, were smart. This run was set to arrive at 3 a.m. to a certain clothing store in the mall. Let's call him IB Nicolette. I'd been to this store a few times before, and it was always the same manager, Mr. Dime, receiving me, and it was always the same runaround. If I wanted to get unloaded, I had to wait for someone to get there. Then I'd have to sit and wait while the poor kid back there gets the load off. Then I'd have to wait for traffic to ease up to get out, since it was almost always 10:30 by the time I finally left, leaving me with only a couple hours left on my clock to get to a truck stop for the day. I got there, and yep, Mr. Dime had come in to accept the load. It was always hard to be smart at 3 a.m., and I can only imagine that was part of Mr. Dime's usual runaround. This time was a bit different for a few reasons. One, he smelled like there was a bit of an herbal calming remedy about him to settle his nerves for the night. Two, he said that he was completely understaffed and there was no one around to unload me, so I'd have to do it myself. Three, I couldn't stay to my usual time because he had to leave before 5. To be fair to him, I did try and say, "Sure, but my contract says..."
"I don't give a darn what your contract states. I don't have anyone in until the store opens, and I've got an appointment that's more important than some trucker's contract. Just unload it yourself."
I considered it for a moment and went back up to my truck to get my tablet. This was in 2019, before lockdown, and the company had just swapped over to tablets for certain things, like signing off an expense or getting permissions. Mr. Dime was fuming when I came back and handed him the tablet. "Just read through and sign with your finger." He didn't read through. I had 20 pallets at one end and 1,500 pounds each. The only available tool to unload them was a manual pallet jack. I started my work clock and began unloading at 3:15. At 5, Mr. Dime looks on in satisfaction to see me about 3/4 of the way through as he's out the door. At 5:15, Mr. Dime's replacement, Mr. Quarter of the day shift, comes running in with his face white as a sheet to see me taking off the 4th to last pallet. "Please tell me that I'm reading this wrong," he pled fruitlessly. I wish I could. I lied, knowing Mr. Dime was about to be up a muddy creek with a spoon. I even tried telling Mr. Dime what he was getting into, but he just skimmed and signed. He slumped. "Wait here, I need to call my district manager. Better be quick, I want to be out of this lot by 6:30 to beat the morning rush and get a good breakfast." He ran back and I continued unloading. When I finally got the last pallet off at 5:50, I turned off my time clock as the district manager came in. We'll call him Mr. Dollar just to keep consistent, followed both by Mr. Quarter, who was looking somewhat relieved, and by Mr. Dime, who was somewhere between terrified and furious. "You're Mr. Arrow?" Mr. Dollar asked, holding a printout and looking to it for the name. "That's me," I agreed. "I take it they sent over the contract Mr. Dime signed?" "Yes, and that's just it. Mr. Dime is accusing you of forging his signature on this, since there's no way he'd sign off on a multi-$1,000 contract just to unload a trailer, especially since he claims you insisted on unloading it yourself." I whistled. "That's a heck of an accusation. Hey, is that CCTV I see up there in the corner over there?" I asked, knowing full well that the entire loading dock was covered by a slew of cameras. The one I pointed out was positioned just right to catch the whole conversation at the door. "Mr. Quarter, get the footage," Mr. Dollar said. "We don't have audio, but we do have visual on them." Mr. Dime lost his fury and now just looked petrified. The fallout. One review later, and I was grinning like a loon back to my truck. I called my manager, booked some home time, and walked away with enough money to last to the end of the month. The next time I went into that IB Nicolette, there was a new, much more sensible manager who always had a man on staff to unload the trucks. Edit to clarify a few things. 1. Yes, I milked it a bit, though not as much as some might think. Like I said, I was regularly there from 3 to 10:30 at the latest. Throw on top of that the fact that I've never been the healthiest of individuals, and it took me that long to keep from hurting myself. This was during the summer in SoCal, and even at night, it was still 90 degrees Fahrenheit outside, hotter in the trailer without any air conditioning. A big man with no AC is going to take all the time he wants. 2. Why didn't Mr. Dime do any of this himself, and why did he lie? Truckers tend to get the short end of the stick, even when we're regulars to a place. This was the 5th or 6th time I had been there, spread out over the course of 4 months or so. So I was familiar enough that I was recognized at the dock, but not so much that they really cared to keep track of it. The manager figured he could probably get away with doing me like this since he claimed I didn't like how long I was waiting. I feel like he's made other truckers get to that point,
but none of them had hourly rates like mine on their contract. He's just one of many that thought he could get away with blaming it on that trucker when it went wrong for him. 3. What happened while we watched the video was pretty anticlimactic. The recording was on Mr. Quarter's phone when he came back and was pretty low quality, but you could still make out that I argued with him about unloading for a minute before coming back, and he did indeed sign it. Mr. Dollar said, "You can go, Arrow. Mr. Dime, go wait in the office now." I got going while the going was good.
Imagine you're at the grocery store and a rude woman comes up to you demanding date her son. That's exactly what happens in our next story. It just popped up on your screen. Give it a tap, come have a listen. You won't believe what happens next.